Welcome to Fix It Home Improvement, covering projects that every homeowner should know and great products for home and garden.
Hi, I'm JC, and this is where we share weekly home improvement tips. I'm joined by my co-host, Cindy.
Hello, JC.
Hi, Cindy. Today we're going to be talking about garbage disposals.
Where would you like to start?
How about with the types of garbage disposals?
Okay, what are they?
So the two main types are continuous feed and batch feed.
And what's the difference?
So with a continuous feed, it's always open, so while you're running your food and grinding it, there's no cover that has to be on it. With a batch feed, it's a little safer because you're adding all the waste and the water at the same time, and then you have to put a cover on for it to start.
Okay.
So it's safer for kids. They can't get their fingers into it, and things can't fly out. And that's one of the cons with a continuous feed, is that you're running a little more water, you're using a little more water, and that open hole can actually, debris can fly out at you. For the continuous feed style, it's usually hardwired. So underneath your sink, you have to have an electrical box where you're going to run either non-metallic cable or you're going to run flexible metal conduit. Mm-hmm. With a batch fed style, generally you're going to have an electric cord. So you're going to have a box with a receptacle underneath the sink, and that's what you're just going to plug straight into.
Which style is more popular?
I would say the continuous feed is probably the most popular, and that's like in our stores, that's primarily what we sold. And here in the Chicago area, most people just would then buy a little, 4 to 6 foot flexible metal conduit to attach it to the metal box. So that's one thing to really look for too with these is, first off, what do you have underneath your sink? If you're replacing one, you need to know, do I plug it in or am I hardwiring it into a metal box?
What size motor normally comes in a garbage disposal?
Well, you can get a lot of varieties of size, and again, every manufacturer, depending on the horsepower, it's going to be a different size. So size is a consideration underneath your sink sometimes, but most manufacturers say that a 3/4 to 1 horsepower is going to grind the food much finer. You're going to have less clogs, and it's going to last longer. So most recommend to get something between 3/4 and 1 horse. So a couple things I would look for if I were purchasing a garbage disposal would be something that says quick mount or quick mount flange on the box. I like the new styles that are insulated, so they're much more quiet. And I like the new feature where it's auto reverse.
So what does that mean?
So if you get a clog, let's say you put in a bone that was actually too big and it kind of got wedged in there, it'll stop and then it'll reverse by itself and then start up again.
Huh.
So they say it really does a nice job of not getting jams and clogging up. So those are a couple features that I would probably look for on the box itself. And most of these are lasting about 10 years now.
Really?
So once you put a garbage disposal in, you feel like you're going to get some years out of it. Now, if you're putting a new garbage disposal in, I would probably check with my community, see if there's any restrictions.
And how do you do that?
I would call the village or my local inspector. And I've found all the inspectors to be very helpful, because some encourage garbage disposals because there's less waste in the landfill. Mm-hmm. But then there's some communities where they don't have adequate wastewater treatment, or they don't have enough water supply, so they really don't like, especially these continuous feed garbage disposals. So it's not bad to check with your local village. And then, is your septic system big enough for that extra waste? Because you're putting more of a burden on a septic system when you use a garbage disposal. Mm-hmm. So it's important that you know that your septic system is big enough, and a plumber would be able to help you with that. There's also special septic system units. So they have these bacterial cartridges. They last 3 to 6 months, and it actually adds bacteria. It squirts a little bit of bacteria into the food every time you grind it, so it helps break it down right there, and then it adds to the bacterial count of the septic system every time you dump this in, because again, you're stressing your septic system. The extra bacteria helps lessen that burden.
So if you currently have a garbage disposal, how easy is it to replace one?
That's a big question customers always had, and it's not that difficult. So I would say now, especially with everybody with smartphones, just take a picture of it first, so if you have any questions when you go to the hardware store, they can help you with the size of the unit and also how the plumbing is. The main thing you're going to do is turn off the electric, and you're going to first remove the electric cable. So depending on how it's hooked up, you're either going to unplug it, or there's going to be flexible metal conduit or non-metallic cable going to an electric box. You're going to make sure the electric's off, double check it with an electrical tester. You're going to remove the cover from that box, and then you're going to have 2 or 3 wires twisted together with a wire connector. You're going to loosen that. You're going to have a nut that holds the cable in place in most cases. You're going to remove that cable, and then you're going to remove the drain pipe off the side of the garbage disposal, and it's either going to be coming straight out or it's going to come down like a 90, and there'll just be a nut. You're going to use a channel locks to loosen that, or a pipe wrench. And then you're going to remove the whole unit itself. And now you're either going to use a screwdriver or you're going to have a disposer wrench. So there's a little tool that you use on the bottom of the disposer to loosen, or let's say you have a clog. It's a little wrench like with a 90-degree head on it, where you put it into the bottom and you're able to rotate the body or the inside part of the garbage disposal if you have a clog.
Is this something you buy separate?
That's something that comes with the garbage disposal. So this little tool. So if you still have it, you can actually use that tool to loosen the garbage disposal.
How many people you think save that?
They should. They should put it right underneath there, or they should tape it to the side of the garbage. And that's my tip. Tape it to the side of the garbage disposal. But you can use that tool or a screwdriver, and there's a collar right around the top of the garbage disposal, and there's going to be some areas that are slotted that you can put in this tool or a screwdriver, and now you're going to turn it counterclockwise, and that's going to allow you to drop the whole unit right off of this mounting bracket. And then you have a couple different styles, but most of them are going to have 3 screws, 3 slotted screws that you're going to loosen, and there's going to be a pair of plates right underneath the sink basket, or like in a kitchen sink where you generally have a sink basket.
Right.
That's going to be the mounting plate and the little tube that holds this all together. So you're going to loosen these screws, and then you're going to drop off these rings, and that whole flange will come apart. So it's pretty easy. It's not too complicated. And in the instructions, once you see a picture of it,
right,
you can see it's very easy to take off. And then for the new garbage disposal, it's actually very easy to put on. When you're purchasing one, though, you need to know, is this going to be a direct connect to an electrical box, or do you need a cord to plug it into an outlet underneath the sink? And then you need to know if it comes in the box. Believe it or not, some garbage disposals don't come with the cord, even if it's a plug-in.
Right.
Some don't have the cord, some do. If it's a direct connect, I've never seen any with a whip. So usually you have to buy that whip or use the old one from the old garbage disposal. And you have to have plumber's putty. So this is something, that's been around forever. Plumbers have used this for generations, plumber's putty as a gasket to create a gasket. So you're going to have the main metal flange that's going to go in the top of the sink, and you're going to have to put a bead of plumber's putty in this. So you take this plumber's putty, you knead it in your hands to get it warm, and you're going to create a rope about a 1/2 inch thick, and you're going to put this all around the underside of the flange that goes on the top of the sink. You embed it into this, and then you're going to have a fiber gasket. You're going to have a metal mounting ring, and you're going to have a locking ring. So you're going to have a fiber gasket and 2 metal plates. The bottom one is going to have those 3 screws in it. You push this up, and then there's going to be some type of retaining ring. And I don't know whether I mentioned that when we took the old one off, you're going to have to pull off that retaining ring. And then you just lock this in place. You tighten down these screws one by one. You alternate. And then the same way we took this off, there's going to be a little locking ring. You push up the unit, and you push this locking ring on, and that locks the unit in place. Then you're going to connect your electric, just how you took it apart. And then also you're going to connect your drain pipe. So it's either going to come straight out or down at a 90-degree angle. So it's not that complex, just what I walked through. Again, you want to look at your instruction. Each unit is a little different. Some on the drain pipe are going to have a special gasket. Some have an insulated gasket to dampen any noise and vibration. So every unit's going to be a little bit different, but it's fairly simple. It's really those steps to remove it and put the new one on.
How does a garbage disposal work?
So most people think there's blades in there chopping up everything, but it's a circular flat plate that has these 2 little metal lugs, they call them. And what they are like little short, squat pieces of metal. It's a 90-degree shape. and they spin. There's usually 2 in a garbage disposal. The food drops into this. They hit these lugs, and they're forced against the edges inside the unit, and it's all notched. So it grabs the food, it grinds it against this, and shreds it up. Some disposers actually have another plate underneath that grind it up even more fine. So as it's going through these little holes in this flat turntable, they get caught in between the second plate, and then it grinds it up even more fine. So very interesting. It's just smashing and grinding rather than cutting. So when you're grinding your food, you want to use cold water.
Why?
So cold water, in most cases, most manufacturers want you to use cold water because hot water can soften some waste and cause it to be gummy and cause a clog. You don't want to ever put grease or fats down your garbage disposal, and nothing fibrous. So no celery, corn husks, artichokes. You want to avoid big fruit pits, and you definitely want to avoid very large or hard bones. Anything like coffee grounds are fine. Chicken bones are okay. In fact, those tiny particles of bone can kind of clean the inside of the garbage disposal. And fruit rinds, in fact, a couple manufacturers recommend once a week or once every couple weeks to take the skins of lemons and limes and grind them. That little bit of acid helps break down odor and clean the inside of the garbage disposal.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So those are some of the tips that you would use.
So, this is going back probably 10 years ago, but my mom always has Easter at her house. So the night before, she was peeling potatoes for mashed potatoes.
Okay.
Was peeling them in the sink.
Uh-huh.
She flips on the garbage disposal, and it just creates this huge, massive clog. So the sink overflows in the kitchen. We have the...
Is this during a party?
No, the night before the party.
Right.
So the drain in the utility room is overflowing. So we can't use the kitchen sink, and she's having Easter the next day.
Right.
So luckily the bathroom was still working okay, and nothing was overflowing there, so we were able to shower and everything. But so that's Easter. I will always remember that we wash dishes in the bathroom tub.
Great.
In the tub. Yeah.
So I would add to that list, no potato skins.
Yeah.
All right, you want to cover some troubleshooting tips?
Yes.
So most manufacturers recommend that you run cold water for 30 to 60 seconds after your waste has been ground up. And that cold water is going to keep the motor cool, and it's also going to move all of this debris out of the trap and down your main drain. If your unit isn't running at all and you hear no humming, the first thing you want to do is check your electric. So you're going to go to your service panel, you're going to check the breaker. If the breaker's on, then your next thing you're going to want to do is check the reset button on the bottom of the unit. And almost all manufacturers have the reset button. It's a little red round button on the bottom of the unit. You push that in, and if there was a jam, there's an internal circuit breaker that pops. Push that button in and then try it again. If your unit is humming and it sounds like it's trying to work, there's probably a jam. So the first thing you would do is grab that tool, that disposer wrench, which you should have taped to the side of it or somewhere handy. Or you can use, most manufacturers, it's a 1/4-inch Allen wrench. Again, this is on the bottom of the unit, and you're going to be able to clear the jam by moving the unit back and forth. So that plate that we talked about, you put your key up in there, and you're going to rotate this both directions until you clear the jam. You're going to make sure that you turn the electric off before you try this. So your electric's off, you put the tool in, you move it back and forth, and usually that's going to free up anything that got wedged in there. And then you turn it back on and give it a try. In most cases, that's going to solve your problem. If you have a unit and you hear something bouncing around in there that just won't grind, so you hear a noise, what you want to do is you want to turn your electric off, and then you're going to use a flashlight and that little baffle, that little rubber baffle that's in the opening. You're going to push that, use the flashlight, and try to see if you can find something. Once you see it, then just use a pair of long needle nose pliers and pull it out. But again, you want to make sure that the electric's off. I would turn the breaker off at the panel so somebody accidentally doesn't turn it on if it's operated by a switch. And those are kind of the main things. If you have a bad clog, though, like you're talking about your mom, you would never want to use drain opener in a garbage disposal because acids are just terrible in there. And just, if you can't free it, now you've really got a mess. And even bases, when you put them in there, bases react. Some garbage disposals have aluminum parts which bases react to, and then the gaskets they just break them down and shorten the life of them. So you never want to use any type of drain opener in a garbage disposal. Now for maintenance on a garbage disposal, there's a couple of different products you can use. One is from Robic, and we did a video on our channel, Fix It Home Improvement, on YouTube. They have a really nice product. It's a garbage disposal cleaner and deodorizer. It's all bacteria, so you pour this into your garbage disposal and it breaks down all that buildup of food and particles inside the unit itself and then down into your drain pipe. So what's nice is not only are you cleaning the garbage disposal, but you're breaking down any biofilm buildup down into your trap. If you have a septic system, it also adds to the bacterial count. So just a really nice product from Robic.
Sometimes there is a funky smell that comes from the...
Absolutely, yes. Some things can build up. And actually some garbage disposals, they attract insects because you need to break that down. Disposer Care is another product you can buy, and they have biodegradable packets. So these are very interesting. You actually drop the whole packet into the garbage disposal and grind the whole thing, and it foams up and it breaks down the buildup inside the garbage disposal. And it also has a really nice citrusy smell. So that's another thing that you can do as a routine to keep your garbage disposal from having any odor.
And we sold both of these, and customers love both of them.
Yeah, we had real good feedback on both products. And if you just want to make your own, you can actually use vinegar and baking soda. And vinegar, because it's a mild acid, it actually... So
aren't you kind of making a volcano like
yes.
you did?
In school? So you pour some baking soda in first, and then you take white vinegar, you pour it in, and it foams and fizzes. I would turn the machine on the volcano for a couple of seconds, and then that's going to
squirt out.
That would be kind of cool. So wear your goggles, and once you turn on the unit, it's going to get over everything, and the acid in the vinegar is going to kill bacteria, viruses. Vinegar does an amazing job. It actually will kill mold, and 80% of most bacteria and viruses are killed by just vinegar, plain old vinegar. So it's an excellent way to keep the odor down and to keep clean your garbage disposal. And in fact, they had a food scientist that said that the recent research, they say that it's actually, vinegar makes just a great produce wash. So when you bring home your produce from the store, you can spray it with vinegar, and then you're going to wash it normally.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very interesting. In fact, what's wild is ancient Egyptians used vinegar to kill bacteria, to preserve food, and they used it as a medicine. They had a lot of different things that they believed by drinking vinegar once or twice a week cured a lot of problems. So vinegar's been used for a long time. In fact, I was on the Heinz Vinegar website, and they were talking about garbage disposals and odor and how to keep it clean. What they recommend is to take some of their Heinz vinegar and take an ice cube tray and freeze the vinegar into ice cubes, and then grind it and flush it with cold water in your garbage disposal. And then they said also another trick is to pour a little baking soda in first, and then turn on just slightly the cold water, and then grind these ice cubes made of vinegar. And they say it just does an excellent job of keeping grease from building up. It breaks down any odor, and that shattering of the ice cubes cleans off all the parts inside the garbage disposal.
Well, just putting regular ice cubes down your garbage disposal once in a while helps, doesn't it?
Sure, because it kind of breaks up and it gets into all these nooks and crannies, and because it's hard, it kind of scrapes at it, helps clean it, and then it just melts away. So,
well, when my grandparents redid their kitchen 20 years ago, they finally put in a garbage disposal, and my grandma she would only put soft stuff down the garbage disposal, and I mean, it was just creating, they're like, the garbage disposal doesn't work, because their stuff just kept backing up, and I'm like, hey, maybe you should put something hard down there once in a while.
And it's almost,
it was always pasta or whatever, it just kept going into the
and you almost want hard things in there to grind.
So
when you're looking for a garbage disposal, you're probably going to spend anywhere from $100 to $300. They have much higher priced models depending on what you're looking for, but probably average is $100 to $300. I've also seen warranties anywhere from a year to 7 years.
Wow.
sometimes just spending a few extra dollars, you're going to get a much better warranty.
Well, it's important to read the package. I mean, not only do you need to know if it's, has to be hardwired or plugged in, you need to know the horsepower, what size it is, and what's the warranty.
Absolutely. And it's also important to know whether it comes with a cord or if it doesn't. When we were thinking about this episode, we reviewed a bunch of our trade magazines and also some consumer magazines, and the top-rated units that you'll probably be satisfied with is Waste King, Incinerator, GE, Frigidaire, Whirlpool, KitchenAid, and Whirlaway.
Do you have anything else to add?
That's it.
All right, I think that ends this episode then.
If you're interested in subscribing, you can go to iTunes or Stitcher.
If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a review.
If you want to see any of our home improvement videos, you can go to YouTube and check out our Fix It Home Improvement channel.
And you can subscribe to that as well.
If you'd like to contact us, you can email us at fixitpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening.
Talk to you next week.